Hi, and welcome to Answers News for October the 8th, 2018. And joining us today is Brian Osborne because Ken couldn't be here, so he's second best. You know, we gotta
I'll take what I can get, right?
Yeah,
okay.
We take what we can get. So Ken's traveling some today, so he's not around, and so. But we're gearing up for our pastors' conference that'll be here starting tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
And so about 800 sold out conference to about 800 different pastors and Christian leaders coming in. So we're really excited about that, and a lot of hubbub and activity going on here today at the museum because of that. And so we're going to start off with some fluff and stuff because we know everybody's trying to get on Facebook and YouTube, and we're on Ken Ham's Facebook page, Answers in Genesis Facebook page, and so I can see people are already starting to get on. So, and Bodie has some nice fluff and stuff.
I am excited about this fluff and stuff.
Oh,
How many people remember Planters cheese balls? Oh yeah, look at there in our audience, which we have a great studio audience. Let them know you're here, by the way.
Oh yeah,
let's hear you.
There you go.
There they are.
I forgot.
So they stopped making these about 12 years ago, and they've been off the market for a long time. Everybody kept saying, "Bring them back."
Well, now they make them for babies, and then basically babies today,
not
puffy
these.
things.
These are the wonderful cheese balls that were like the standard of cheese balls, and by popular demand, they brought some back.
Who sets that standard?
You know, if they would have called me, I would have been happy to set that standard. But they've been off the market for 12 years, and people really wanted them back. They brought them back for a limited run. They just went like that. I couldn't even get them. I've had an order in since June, and they just got to me, and I was excited. And I'll tell you what.
Have you eaten some yet?
I did. I tore into the first one. I got a set of 12, and these things.
Oh my gosh!
See that? The whole place just.
And when we first saw,
you start throwing them out.
He had already told me the story earlier today. Oh gosh!
So good.
People tuning in just now are so confused.
Well, Brian didn't know.
Happening?
Okay, so a lot of times when someone isn't here, we put up something to represent that person. And so when he saw the cheese balls, he's like, "Is that to represent Ken Ham?"
I thought it matched up, right?
I don't know. Let's hope he's not watching, or you might.
Oh, I was so excited about these. But, hey.
All right, so a couple of other things coming up here. Different conferences that we're having. Answers for Women. This is the conference that we'll have next year, April 5th and 6th. And we'll have this at the Ark Encounter new Answer Center, which is a 2,500-seat auditorium that we're building there right now. And it's going to be called Sacred, Embracing God's Design for Sexuality. And so I really encourage you ladies to think about coming. It's all about equipping women to defend their faith and to tell the truth about God's Word and help people, offer hope through the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so you can find out more information at answersforwomen.org. And we have a lot of great speakers lined up, a lot of great music. You'll get free admission to the Creation Museum and the Ark Encounter, and 20% off for your family. So it's really a great time to come and enjoy everything that we have to offer here for that. And then I know we just talked about the Pastors Conference is coming up here starting tomorrow, which is sold out. But this is next year's Pastors Conference. One Race, One Blood, Biblical and Scientific Answers. And so that will be October 8th through the 10th. That will also be at the Answer Center at the Ark Encounter. So we're really excited about all of these great conferences that we can offer to different groups of people to really help them. And this is a huge, huge issue. I mean, that we have obviously in our society today.
I just wish our conferences were more relevant.
Yeah. They're not relevant at all, right?
These will be two really good conferences. Very important, very powerful.
From Denmark to Australia.
Wow.
We got people all over the place that are hopping on.
People from Arizona. I see a good friend, Nate from Arizona, tuning in. John from, about Alberta.
I'm in Wales.
We got Texas, a bunch of people tuning in. Hannah's always tuning in. Good to see you, Hannah. Jennifer from Arizona. I saw Snoopy somewhere along the way.
We have people from all over here in our audience today. We had somebody from Canada as well.
Absolutely.
A lot of people come down from Canada.
We get a lot from Canada, Didn't we have a bus tour not too long ago?
We did.
Did they take over?
Yeah, it seemed like
was it like an invasion in the museum?
It was like a Canadian conference here. It was pretty neat.
Okay, so one more Fluff and Stuff article. More than 250 people worldwide have died taking selfies, study finds.
All right, guys, smile. Smile.
I don't know whether to laugh or cry.
It really is funny and sad at the same time. Because I'm sure.
It's really sad.
259 specifically died last year.
And the majority.
In 6 years.
In 6 years. And the majority of those people were ages 10 to 30. So somewhere in that younger age group is where most of these people are passing away from taking selfies.
You know, people are scared of spiders. And I looked up, there's only about 3 to 6 people that die per year from spiders. Sharks, about 10. Deer are about 120. But that's because they jump out in front of your car and cause problems
Oh
there.
dear,
But,
that's right.
my goodness, selfies.
It's,
Who would have
people
thought?
got to think. You know, they said there's, so this is sad. They said people need to think about the fact that likes on social media are not as important as their lives, right? I mean, hopefully we should all know this. And Russia has actually started a campaign called the Safe Selfie Campaign.
Yeah.
And they have pictures to help you know when it is not safe to
In
take
case
a
you were
selfie.
wondering,
Okay?
don't step in front of the train to take a selfie. That's a bad
People have
idea.
Get a bad
died
picture with the
doing that.
train. Yeah.
Which it does show people's desperate need to be liked, if you will, even if it's just on Facebook, to have those likes to show up.
That's
And,
what it all stems from.
and Russia said all about this campaign that their slogan was, even 1 million likes on social media are not worth your life and well-being. Which is true.
A lot of times
very
what
Christian
happens-
of them, but yeah.
Yeah, a lot of times what happens are people are falling from heights or even electrocution and things like that.
Drowning is a
Firearms
really
was
common
a big one. Drowning was
animals.
really sad.
Yeah.
Here, let's get my picture with this elephant.
Yeah, one guy was taking a picture with a bear that was injured, and the bear woke up and mauled him to death. I mean, you know,
so
people
sad
use
and
some
funny.
common sense,
Yeah, but-
and think about your value and your, you know, that's the other thing. You know, as Christians, I mean, we are made in the image. I mean, all people are made in the image of God, and we have value because of that. And we need to value our lives more than what people think about us on social media. Oh my goodness.
Somebody just mentioned on here that someone died at the Grand Canyon because of taking a selfie in a bad spot.
Oh yeah, you got to be careful.
Same sort of
Grand
thing.
Canyon is
Yeah.
beautiful, but don't
It is
die
gorgeous.
trying to impress people. All right, Hawaii's Kilauea volcano formed a tiny new Hawaiian island. So we all know there's been tons of eruptions there over the last 2 months. And this actually formed from not an eruption that was on the surface, but from an eruption that's occurring under the surface of the water, and formed this small island now off another Hawaiian island.
And pretty much formed this overnight, correct?
Yeah, it said
Very
practically
quickly?
overnight. That's how it begins. So it shows how fast that some geological features can actually form. Now, this was from a fissure that came out, you know, underneath the ocean and kind of came up and formed one there.
Right.
But nonetheless, it shows some rapid geology there.
Imagine that.
Well, we see a lot of that too.
See, that's important. You know, when we think back to the time of the flood of Noah's day, you know, you have massive geology. You got continents shifting and moving around and things like that to produce the features that we generally see today. Of course, you know, some of these things are continuing to change, but you know, when it comes to rapid geology, you know, we have this mindset because we've been influenced by the world that it takes long periods of time for certain things, whether it's mountain building, whether it's to make oil or coal or rock layers. Do you realize we can make oil from algae in less than 30 minutes?
Yep.
We can make coal in weeks. You can make canyons in days, rock layers in hours.
Diamonds
and,
quickly.
stalactites, you know.
The fossils a while back with the
inches
article.
and days. Yeah,
make
so many
those in
cool
24
things.
hours. Yeah, doesn't take a long time.
Yeah, so that was kind of neat. But, you know, there is still a lot of destruction. Be praying for a lot of the people that are out there that's been displaced and things like that.
And there's another island that's forming a little bit further out beyond the last island, the last current island
chain,
of the
correct,
Hawaiian Islands. And it's still under the water, though. It hasn't come up yet.
Right.
And they said it'll probably take tens of thousands of years before that island reaches the ocean surface. Well,
unless something happens.
unless something
Unless
drastically
something
happens.
catastrophic happens. That's right.
Like this one that can form things really, really quickly under the right condition. We have people on here from Moscow, and I'm assuming you mean Moscow, Russia, since you didn't say, but in Scotland as well. So
Somebody says, what makes you think that you can take a selfie in front of a bear? Yeah.
Someone says hi from India, by the way. Look at
that's
that.
good.
Yeah.
Whoops. All right.
California,
So something
just
happened to my. Let's see
crazy.
if I can get back in here. There we go. All right.
Ah, here we go.
All right, dog intelligence not exceptional. Okay, I don't want all the dog lovers to get on here and start harping on Facebook.
Don't start
about
barking
this.
at us.
This is the science, okay,
By the
behind
way,
it.
if you
And-
watch this often, I would say this article is Bodhi. The title is Bodhi approved. The title was, people who think dogs are exceptionally intelligent are barking up the wrong tree. Thought you'd appreciate that, brother.
I appreciate that.
He's the master of puns.
Do people bark up trees?
Okay,
I hope
so
not.
basically, they said they analyzed the papers that have looked at dog intelligence. Okay, that's what this research study did, and they said the problem with a lot of the studies is the research sets out to prove how clever dogs are. Okay, that is just bad science. You don't set out to prove things. You set out to disprove things. You set out to falsify them to show that they're false. Because if you can't show they're false, then
You really
then
didn't
that
show a
supports
lot.
that they could be true or might be true.
Right.
So it's just bad research design, basically.
Well, they also said in the article that they noticed that in several cases there was an over-interpretation in the dog's favor. So what they were doing, they looked at something the dog did, they over-interpreted it because people like dogs. There are, at least in the Western America, we want to think the best of dogs, so we over-interpret what they do, give more meaning to it than actually demands from the actual observations. And I think you could say the same thing with apes in regards to evolutionary theory, right?
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. One of the things they say in here is, based on the study, they found that dogs were basically about the same intelligence as bears and lions and hyenas and,
so they're
and a number of
intelligent.
other things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ken's not here, and Ken has a love for domestic cats, and I know what he would say. He would say, well, domestic cats weren't on that list. That's probably what he would say. Not to offend the cat lovers out there, but I'm just suspecting that's what Ken would say.
Yeah, and we just need to realize that, well, I love my dog, okay? We anthropomorphize a lot. We tend to put, those human qualities on animals that we have to be careful about that, so to speak, and not elevate them above what they should be.
Dogs aren't made in the image of God.
Yes.
But we can be sure dogs are better than cats, correct?
No, don't start that, because I'm going to have a whole Facebook
This is not a can of
people on
worms,
here.
okay? This is a can of cheese balls. So.
Yeah, we're taking you off air, Brian. Okay, did you say that? All right.
That was for
Oh,
Ken.
we've got
Look at that.
Romania.
People in the audience are ready to go to bed.
We got people from Romania on Facebook. Oh, it's Moscow, Idaho. All right, not Russia. I wondered if it was Idaho. All right. Use of evolution to design molecules nets Nobel Prize in chemistry for 3 scientists. Okay, so my radar obviously goes up when I see something like this, because this is something that we've kind of posed a lot to evolutionists as we are creationists to say, well, how has evolution really advanced science? How has that really helped us better develop technology or medicines or anything like that?
That's something Ken posed to Bill Nye during their debates, correct?
Yeah. So that's what what they're saying, that this one was basically Frances Arnold, who was one of the professors that won the Nobel Prize in chemistry, that she tapped the power of evolutionary biology. All right.
So how did she tap the power of evolutionary biology?
This should be interesting.
Right. Well, what she did was, so she took enzymes, which are proteins, okay? She took the genes for those. They already exist, okay? She didn't design it or do anything like that. It already exists in some organism, whatever it may be from, and she put that into a bacteria that's rapidly produces. And what the bacteria did, any bacteria that rapidly produces tends to make mistakes in its DNA, okay? So there's mutations. Those are called mutations. And sometimes those mutations allowed that protein to work better, to do what it already did even better, all right? And so she would select those and then try to make it even better and better. Okay, here's the thing. That's not evolution, okay? That doesn't explain the origin of the gene in the first place. It isn't doing anything new. It's not causing you to go from one kind of organism to a different kind of organism, okay? You got to have lots of different things to do that. You can't just make something that's already there better. That's not evolution.
They were manipulating existing things, right? To benefit humanity, which is a good thing. It follows the biblical dominion mandate of Genesis.
That's right. Going back, looking at the way God designed things, that's a brilliant way to figure out all sorts of things.
Oh, yeah.
And so, I actually appreciate the research. She's just misapplying it to, trying to say that the creation is necessarily what should be worshipped instead of the creator.
Sure.
That's where we need to step back and say, hold on, let's give credit where credit's due. God is the one who first did this.
Right.
What she's doing is she's modifying a process on it.
She's tweaking it.
That's right.
Sure.
That's all she's doing.
Now, granted, she's applying some intelligence to it and that sort of thing.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
I like to call this artificial selection at a molecular level.
Yeah.
So that's really what that is.
Just rolls right off the tongue, doesn't it?
Yeah, sure.
Well, and even she claimed, she said, well, it's, well, no, I'm sorry. She didn't actually say this. So the article says, whoever wrote the article says, she said, the author of the article says it's just like evolution. It chooses survival of the fittest. This is not like evolution, because evolution doesn't look at just one gene. It looks at the whole organism, and it selects for or against that organism. And unless that gene makes a significant change in the organism so they survive better than another one, they're not going to be selected for. more than anything else. So it really is just, and even part of her experiment is what they call DNA shuffling. She's literally the intelligence behind it, right? It's not just random chance, which is what evolution is. She's selecting, she's doing all of the work. So what does this show? This shows that random chance doesn't produce anything. It's people, intelligence behind it that produce good things.
Yeah.
And helpful things.
By the way,
so overall good research.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Just a
And helpful.
I
misunderstanding.
applaud her completely. I think it's great. Great what she's doing, you know.
Yeah,
she's
it's just the worldview behind it.
And then the misinterpretation and the application of applying it to a bigger spectrum of macro evolution. And then some comments on here. People were talking about my comment about the cats. Somebody said bunnies rule. Which is
Was that my daughter?
That's a good
There we
neutral,
go.
good neutral ground. Somebody said turn my mic off. I'm sorry.
There's an idea I hadn't thought of. We could actually arrange that. So.
And then someone said in response to this article, this is super sciencey, which is a very technical term.
Yeah,
super sciencey. Yeah, I like it.
And so it's good.
Well,
We
if
don't
you're
want
going to win a Nobel Prize, it better be super
we don't want to
It needs
knock
to be
that she won the
super.
Nobel Prize. That's a
Yeah.
great, one of the greatest achievements that a scientist can reach. And she's done a lot of
Absolutely.
good things, and the other people that want it have too. But it's not evolution, is what I'm
Yeah.
saying. It's just change in something that's already there. Okay. Indonesia Tsunami, Balaroa, and Petobo face being turned into mass graves after the earthquake. So I think all of you probably have heard in the news about this major tsunami that hit Indonesia, and the island that is beside Indonesia, Sulawesi, also was hit. And what this article is actually talking about is what happened as a result of the earthquakes there is that the ground literally liquefied and enveloped entire villages as a result.
Imagine being on the ground that is as solid as anything,
Yeah.
and then suddenly it's like quicksand and you're just sinking. There's nothing you can do about
And this was pretty much immediate, correct?
Yeah, it would happen. There's
it was
video
really
of
quick.
it that you can watch.
Yeah,
And so
over 1,700 homes just sank. That
So all
quick.
you're seeing is the tops of the homes.
And this is just
That's
some
all
of
that's
them.
left.
A lot of them are just completely gone. That's how far under it's, which is a tragedy. This is
Oh,
terrible,
yeah.
you know.
And there are some estimates of around 70% of the population were
of
killed
some of these some of these
in
villages.
these areas.
Yeah.
Right. And one of
which
the other
is-
ones, Petobo, I believe is how it's pronounced. Somebody can correct me on that. But at that place, over 700 houses had disappeared, and just a massive number of the population there. And
Yeah.
they said, you know, the rescue teams came in and, you know, they're clearing, trying to find, you know, and they find some bodies, but they said a lot of it's so buried
just
that
won't be
most
able
likely
to-
what they're probably going to do is just cover it up and
Yeah.
turn it into a mass grave, which is sad. But it kind of reminds you of Mount Vesuvius and things like that, some of these tragedies and things that happen so quick. And,
Sure.
you know, there it is. But it should be a reminder how fragile life is and why you really need a savior to save you from sin and death.
Absolutely.
And, you know, sad to see these kinds of things. I mean, even when people get killed, you know, with the selfies and things like that, those are sad things.
Oh yeah, we're not making fun of it.
No,
in that
no,
sense.
yeah, and you know, want people to understand, you know, the value of life and all this.
Right.
And so, you know, we put the challenge out to be more careful, you know, in those types of instances. But in instances like this, you know, it's a reminder that we're in a sin, cursed, and broken world. And,
Well, it should be an encouragement too to believers to share their faith, to know what they believe and why they believe it, because according to the most recent research, 10 out of 10 people die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every person does die, and every person will
it
meet
will
their
happen.
Savior or meet their Maker
Yeah.
on their day of judgment. And
But it
give an
does show
account.
you that things
And
like
so-
this can happen very quickly. I mean, in the video,
It's
it
rapid
just took
geology
minutes.
again.
That's all
It
it
is,
took.
again,
The ground
rapid
liquefied,
geology.
it swallowed them up, and that was it. And so, you know, we talk about rapid geologic change, you know, things that happen, and like in the flood or shortly after
well,
the
that's
flood,
right. I mean,
these things happen.
Imagine the flood, springs of the Great Deep burst forth. You have massive volcanism. You have massive tsunamis. You're going to get liquefaction and things like this.
Right.
It's going to occur. This is going to be a big issue going on during the early stages of the flood, even during the
Well,
flood.
and what we see today are just kind of dim leftovers of
Right.
that
Yeah.
major
Small,
catastrophic event
yeah.
around 4,500
That's what
years
we're
ago.
seeing with this,
Yep.
essentially. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, by the way, so much want to let it be known that someone has forgiven me for my comments. I appreciate that, Hannah. Thank you for
Yay.
that. Someone did ask a good question on here. They said, would that fossilize the humans who are buried?
That's a good question.
Potentially, it all
Potentially,
depends.
if it's on mineral content of the rocks as well.
Well, yeah,
the mud.
mineral content. It's got to be mud. You got to be able to seal out the oxygen. It's one of the biggest keys.
Yeah, because otherwise it'll just decay and it won't
That's
really
right. And a lot of
fossil.
times, you have plenty of bacteria in your body. Once you die, it's going to decay.
Yeah.
A lot of parts of you.
Sure.
So I mean, it is specialized conditions. Now, flood conditions, where it's water, mud mixed up. If you have plenty of limestone, for example, dissolved in the water, that can replace out certain parts of your body, to turn you into a fossil.
Yeah.
But it's potential.
It's
but,
potential, yeah.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
Whoever asked, good thinking.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, on to happier things. Rare, vibrant blue sea creatures shock New Jersey beachgoers. So we actually talked about a different, this is a type of jellyfish. It's very small. It's only about 1 inch in diameter. The other week we talked about the lion mane jellyfish, which is the size of a blue whale.
Gigantic, it's huge.
Yeah. So this one's a lot different. And again, these things are appearing in places where they're not expected. And they've never seen these in New Jersey. And these are the blue button jellyfish.
You said that really slow.
Good job.
We were talking to her earlier, and she called it the blue belly button.
Do you remember what you
I
called
called it the bellyfish.
Do you remember what was that it, the jellyfish?
Yeah. It's a jellyfish, not a bellyfish. So.
Yeah, that is not a belly button you're seeing up there.
Yeah.
That's not AIG approved. Jellyfish are not.
But no, you can see the beautiful blue
It is
color,
very pretty.
that emanates
Vibrant.
from it there.
Yeah.
When I was in Australia, they have blue bottle jellyfish. We'd see some of those wash up. My wife actually has been stung by 2 of them.
Oh, lovely.
She's not a fan of jellyfish, so. But hey, I mean, they have a beautiful blue. If you were to look up the blue bottles or even these blue buttons, they're absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
I was going to say, great
go ahead.
example of God's variation, just the beauty within His
yeah.
creation.
And they live in colonies too. So these animals, they live in a big colony of jellyfish, and the different jellyfish within the colony have different roles. So, we look at a jellyfish and you think, okay, no brain, it's just like literally liquid basically, and you think it's so simple, but yet even in that simplicity, there's so much complexity.
Yeah.
And it should really speak, if you think about something like this, being so complex, wow, that just speaks to God's intelligence and His creativity in nature.
So why is it they found a whole bunch of these up in New Jersey?
Yeah, well,
Hurricane Florence,
Hurricane
correct? Push it up
Florence,
from
is
Florida
what
up
they're
the coast,
arguing.
right?
Actually just dragged all sorts of stuff up there. So, big storms like this actually redistributes animals and moves them around and things like that too. I mean, that does happen. Yeah.
yep.
Again,
Very true.
rapid change.
Yeah.
All right, this next article, let me just say, we could spend a lot of time on. We won't, but the Alberta
sure about
government, Alberta government demands that independent schools renounce the religious policy. So this is obviously in
This
Canada.
is independent schools.
Right.
There, that's
this is
fine.
not-
Like
private
Christian schools and so forth, they're saying you can't be Christian anymore.
Right. So the Alberta.
This is what they're demanding.
The Alberta's Deputy Minister of Education, so they want them to remove content from what they call their safe and caring school policies because it violates what is known as the School Act. And so why don't we read some of these just so people know what they're wanting to remove from
and
the
just so
policies.
you know, according to what was written here, they said any of these things we're about to read, these things are unwelcoming, uncaring, and disrespectful at the least. So if you in your creed say you're created or kids are created in the image of God, that is unwelcoming, uncaring, and disrespectful. That you have intrinsic worth, that's disrespectful. That you have a godly attitude towards marriage and family, one man for a woman for life, that would be disrespectful. I could read more, but if parents have the main responsibility to raise their kids, that is unwelcoming, uncaring, unrespectful. Keep going down the line. God made male and female. You have inherent worth and value. Marriage between one man and one woman.
But the Bible is the infallible word of God.
Yeah. If you say that's disrespectful, apparently.
Obedience to God's law supersedes subjection to human authority. You keep going down the line.
So what they're saying is these types of things oppose their idea of being diverse and being respected.
Yeah.
So basically what they're saying is they're demanding the independent schools be diverse but not be Christian. In other words, you're allowed to have all sorts of diversity except Christianity. Now,
It's a double standard.
it's a double standard.
Total double
No doubt about that. But this is an attack on Christianity.
Sure.
Right.
And it should not be surprising that a secular dominated culture, a secular worldview that dominates a culture wants to impose itself onto the others around it, onto other schools, other peoples, and that's what's happening here. So it should not surprise us that it's happening, but it should make us aware. As we think about this is in Alberta, Canada, but we see this stuff happening over in Europe, as we'll see here later on, and it's happening here in America.
It's nothing new. You know, this kind of stuff happened back in the 1930s in Germany.
Sure.
As soon as the Nazis took over, they went in after the education system and said, you will change and you will conform to their belief system. And they made them do it. And what did they do? They raised an entire generation of soldiers for the Nazis. As sad as that is, but look at the outcome of that. They taught in Germany that, you know, kids were taught evolution, that there were higher and lower races, and that they were part of a higher race, you know, an Aryan race, and let's go out and wipe out all the others, which is exactly essentially what Darwin was teaching. Darwin actually taught that the Caucasians were the highest and should exterminate everyone else. I mean, this is nothing new.
And
When
it's
they're
not
trying
just
to impose this on us,
tolerate it. They're not asking people to tolerate it. No. They're asking you to accept it, to integrate it, and to welcome it. Okay, that's what they want. It's not just about, oh, you know, to say, it's not enough for me to say, oh, that's okay for you to have that belief. It's that I have to change my beliefs to match your beliefs. And that's where then it's not diverse anymore if there's not a multitude of ideas or opinions on these things. But this is what's happening.
And someone said on the comments here that the government there is threatened by his word, God's word, and his truth. And that's true. That's what it is foundationally. This is a battle between light versus darkness ultimately. And we should not be surprised that those who are standing on man's word as their authority, who live in darkness, want to impose that worldview on others. It should encourage us to be ready to give an answer for our faith by standing on God's word and equipping our kids and our grandkids to know what they believe and why they believe it, to defend their faith, to proclaim the gospel, because more and more this is what they're coming up against as they grow up. And if they don't know what they believe, why they believe it, they will fall away, and they'll have no foundation to proclaim the gospel. And by the way, the gospel is the answer to this. Not a cultural revolution, but the gospel of Jesus Christ that changes hearts and lives. That'll change a culture that starts by standing on his word.
Let's look at a big picture here. Safe and caring, where does that come from? That comes from the Bible. Why do you want your kids to be safe? Because they're made in the image of God. We as parents and as leaders should be looking after the kids of the next generation. Why should we care? Because God is caring. We're made in the image of a caring God. But you know what? In a secular worldview, if you're going to throw God out and say, let's get rid of all this, those kids are nothing but a mosquito. They're no different from it. You know, when it comes down to it, you know, we see all these school shootings left and right. That is perfectly consistent with the secular worldview where people are just animals. So why is it, if you impose a secular worldview on them, do you expect those kids to be safe? Or you expect them to have a caring worldview when they walk out of that? If it is nothing but you're an animal and survival of the fittest and nothing matters when you die, that's the exact opposite of a safe and caring policy.
Exactly. And, you know, they're threatening to take away money from the schools, threatening to take away accreditation from the schools. I mean, it's bullying. Pure and simple, that's what bullies do. And that's what we're seeing a lot in these situations, both in Canada and in the U.S. and in the UK, which leads into our next article about the UK school teaches 6-year-old kids to write gay love letter for same-sex marriage assignment. So basically, the children are told
6-year-olds are taught about sex and terrible forms of sex at the age of 6.
In this particular case, they're told to pretend that they are a fictional fairy tale character named Prince Henry, and they're to write a love letter to their servant Thomas, telling them why it is a brilliant idea for them to get married. 6.
If you want to know if paganism is taught to 6-year-olds, there it is. That's what that is.
And by the way, we're not that far behind from this sort of thing happening here in the U.S., right? We've seen the public libraries have
drag queens
come and do story time. California lawmakers trying to impose laws very similar in
even
ideology
things
to
the point that parents can't even opt out. They're not allowed to opt their children out in the public school system. They have to stay for these things.
And these are for younger and younger grades, all the way from nursery through the 6th grade. But these kindergarten, preschool age groups are being, indoctrinated with these ideas.
They make a statement in here. We also teach about racism, extremism, and religion, and the same philosophy filters through it. I would challenge anyone who doubts the power of what we're trying to do around LGBT plus to come and talk to some of our little people. Really, would they invite Ken Ham to come speak to their little people?
Yeah.
Would they dare? Would they dare bring in a creationist to tell them they're made in the image of God and that they should abstain from some of the sexual activity?
Well, because their goal is not neutrality. They want to impose their worldview on the coming generation, so their worldview is the one that's more dominant in the end because they believe their worldview is right. They think they have the right perspective. And by the way, the more and more they impose their ideas to the coming generations, the more and more coming generations view those who stand on the Bible as intolerant, as bigoted, as cultic, if you like.
And you get them young. Right? That's the key, because they want to normalize this. It's all about acceptance and normalization. They use the word acceptance, I don't know how many times in this article. And that's the idea. They want to make it so that it's normal, so that you don't think twice about it and you just accept it.
Yeah, parents need to wake up. If their kids, I mean, this is just one example. This is probably being taught all over the place in a lot of different places.
It's happening here in the U.S. too, by the way, these same kinds of things.
Parents should be shocked that their 6-year-old kids are being taught by someone else about sex and sexual immorality and all sorts of sexual sin.
And guys, it's not just about equipping our kids to defend their faith, but more and more to recognize that our kids grow up with, this is what they have. This is what they've been indoctrinated with their entire lives. So to help reach out to those people, you got to know what you believe. All right, and we find answers to all of this really starting back in the book of Genesis. The origin of marriage, gender, sex itself, so forth, finds its foundation right there.
Okay.
And so this goes into the next article too. It talks about, it's from The Guardian, the removal of Darwin and evolution from schools is a backwards step. And so this is from the director of the Natural History Museum over in the UK. And he specifically starts the article by talking about Israel and Turkey and how they're trying to remove evolution, the theory of evolution, from their school curriculums. And so he's talking about how problematic that is, because in his view, evolution is the only evidence-based explanation of life on Earth.
That's a bifurcation fallacy. He's saying it's either that or nothing. That's bifurcation
fallacy. Wait, bless
fallacy.
you. What'd you say?
Basically, there's another option. If you start with God and His Word, it actually makes sense of the evidence.
Science
it's a great
supports
confirmation
it.
of the
Well,
Word.
same present-day data, two different interpretations based on two different worldviews.
Now, here's what you need to do. Step back and look. Michael Dixon here, the director of the Natural History Museum, is a naturalist. He believes in the naturalistic religion. He's pushing for the naturalistic viewpoint and worldview. Of course, that's why he's going to say that that's the only viewpoint by which to look at all things as naturalistic.
Right.
And the examples that he gives, right, for evolution are antibiotic-resistant bacteria and how animals respond to global warming. That's not evolution.
Neither one are evolution.
Variation, adaptation, speciation. Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. In India, you know, they questioned evolution as well. Singh, he actually questioned Darwin. One of the things he said was, no one ever saw an ape turn into a human being. You know what he's doing? He's saying, you know, science is observable and repeatable. We can't observe that. We can't repeat it. You know, of course we should be able to question that sort of thing.
Well, and that's what he says. He says, well, evolution has been rigorously tested across a range of scientific disciplines. No, it hasn't, because it's something that occurred in the past. How can you test something that has occurred in the past? That's like saying I've tested creation. I mean, I know it happened because this is what God's word says. I can't actually test it in the same sense that I test something today to find out, for example, if a new drug works to cure something or to fix something. I mean, those are different types of science.
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. One of the things it says is Darwin's theory of evolution not only underpins all of biological science, it has immense predictive power. How does it underpin all of biological science? For example, the law of biogenesis. This is a law. Law of biogenesis states that life only comes from life, not non-life.
We've never seen a rock give birth to anything, correct?
That's correct.
If you do, run. It's not good, all right? Just don't
Matter
does
not
Well, how
give
can I
rise
be
to
a
life.
biologist? Because I don't believe in Darwin's idea. I don't call it a theory, because a theory has evidence to back it up and is well supported in science. This is not a theory. This is an idea or a belief system.
A lot of
It's an
people have been able to do
interpretation
biological science without evolution. Gregor Mendel is a great example.
Yeah.
You know, the founder of genetics. But it also says here predictive power. Well, you know, Darwin predicted because in his day there were you just didn't have the alleged transitional forms that you need. He said they're just missing from the rock record. He predicted that they would find them in the future. There should be billions of them. And what do we have? A handful of disputable ones that really don't make any sense. Where are the billions? I mean, if this is so predictive, that's a failed prophecy right there. That's exactly what that is. A failed prediction is a failed prophecy.
Yep.
And, you know, they say at the end of the article, he says, we will continue to defend Darwin's legacy, the theory of evolution. All right, I'm going to say this. Here at the Creation Museum, we'll continue to defend God's word, the truth of the biblical account of creation, which is the only evidence-based explanation, or the only one that's supported by the evidence for the diversity of life on Earth.
All right, well, we're about out of time, so I did want to tell people, if you want to find out more about an evolutionary worldview and the problems with Darwin's model, Dr. Nathaniel Jeanson has an incredible book. It's a little techie here, Replacing Darwin, The New Origin of Species. Powerful book. If you guys, I know some people don't like to read, they don't like to dive into a lot of that. We have Dr. David Minton, he's an anatomist. He has a DVD, you can watch this one, Evolution, Not a Chance. Powerful DVD, Evolution, Not a Chance.
And just to mention too, here at the Creation Museum, because we believe in science education, we have Explore Days, which are hands-on workshops for kids in 4th through 12th grade. We have those throughout the year, and then we have summer camps as well for children in 4th to 12th grade. So we'll put the links up there, and you can check those out, but strongly encourage you to look into those. And so we are really out of time today, so but it's worth going over sometime. So we'll get to all the articles we didn't get to on Thursday. And so we'll sign off and see you then.
All right, God bless.
Have a good day. See you guys.